So what we actually try to do is we explore a little bit one role that people can take in a democratic classroom, but there's one person straddling. He defines different roles that we can use when we are talking about human rights, citizenship, democracy, and I will just read them for you. So the first one is a neutral approach. So somebody who doesn't share any personal views or opinions or tries to find allies in the discussion. They mostly take up a role as a facilitator in the discussion. The devil's advocate, that was what we tried before. So somebody who introduces an opposite perspective than the one who is expressed in the group. The balanced approach is somebody who presents the possible range of perspectives and alternatives without expressing the one that they prefer. A stated commitment is somebody who shares their personal views or opinions on the subject. An ally approach is somebody who takes the side of a person or a group. And an official line approach is somebody who promotes what is dictated by public authorities. This can be, for example, somebody says, but it's the law, or it's what the policy is in our municipality, so somebody who uses official public sites. So it's not.
Somebody missing.
Yeah, I know.
So what we want you to see is that sometimes when you're a teacher in the classroom, you will not always be very conscious about teaching roles that you will use or take. Some of the roles will happen very unconscious. So we want to really use this exercise to explore what is positive or maybe negative about certain roles, or are they all negative? And do you think one role is specific for democratic teaching, or do you think you can use them all? So we will kind of explore this a little bit by doing the same exercise, but you will choose in your group, everybody will choose an approach that they will get into, and we will try and find an agreement on the admission fee of 15 euros. So you will try to get in your role and see how this works as a group, and you will try and find an agreement on the admission fee and see how you feel by taking a certain role or a position.
And everyone in the group takes a different?
Yeah, everybody in the group takes a different position, and you play with it, and you see what happens, and you see how it feels, and why would you use it as a democratic teacher, or why not? So we will discuss a bit afterwards. Is it clear for everybody?
Discuss which role is assigned to
which person. You can decide yourself which role you will take, and you will try and find starting from the role. Maybe first you decide which role you will. So maybe just if somebody wants to give, how was it to do it? What did you experience?
It was different knowing the rules.
Okay, yeah. It would have been better not to know?
Yes.
Yeah?
In a way, yes. With more
Did you know? Oh, we didn't know the role.
Okay, we said that if... Okay. Yeah, but okay, how was it, not knowing?
Well, I thought that if we knew it, there was like no point to the exercise, so we did it not knowing. It was fun.
I think we all just got stuck after a time. We just kept repeating what we were saying. But I think it's a bit different when you're teaching in a group or you're working with a group, because then you try to adjust to what the group is. So if there's someone who is very low on status, then you try to help them by becoming an ally and supporting them to voice their opinion and going with that idea. Sometimes you switch in between when the group changes. So if they have there are many different opinions, then there's no point being a devil's advocate because everyone's doing that. So so it really depends on the group, and here it was a bit different from that. But I think it was useful to sort of try out, and I just gave up.
Yeah, it was really interesting because we changed our roles completely. So whoever did, for example, one role in real life, they changed to the opposite. And I realized that when, for example, my experience was that when I have my own personal ideas, I'm trying to be open, more open, to hear the other people and like not stay to my own but to include everybody. But now I supported something completely opposite, and I really felt more empowered to like impose my ideas and like have real arguments, and I didn't expect that.
So in the end, I started to shift my position and started to become more, questioning of the premise of it.
Do we need to agree in teaching about democracy?
The admission fee was a tricky one for me because it's like, we could talk about it, but are we empowered? Do we have the authority to actually adjust that? So negotiating it just seemed a bit silly. But we started to find angles in like free lunch and ways to justify spending €15 on the exhibition.
Is it important that you feel that you needed this, that everybody agreed, or think it's...
Actually, it felt like that after a while I had to fall out of my role because there was just no other way around it. It was very interesting that I tried to stick to it as much as I could, but at some point I felt like I cannot reasonably continue on this line of reasoning anymore.
Okay.
I still tried, but it was not easy at some point to actually say, well, rules are rules, because then I just kept repeating myself.
Yeah, I think it's a bit contradictory if you want it to end, that everyone, for example, if you have an opinion on something as a teacher, and you want at the end of the lesson that the students think the same as you, then it's not. Yeah.
I think it really depends. In drama, often the case is you have to make a decision, and sometimes it's really useful as well because it adds pressure and it gives the discussion a stake. Sometimes you have to decide. So does this guy step out of the door, or when you're meeting Jonas, what should we try first? I mean, you have to decide. Yeah. Should we argue for lowering the admission fee or not? And there, I think, reaching an agreement. But it's also the same in democracy. You have to reach often an agreement So I think it's learning a lot about how we communicate or how we reach an agreement, and that really matters. And I think it's really useful voting is the last resort usually for a drama teacher if we want to find out how to go on, how should the story go on, what should we try. I just want to say.
I'm a mediator. I mediate stuff as a lawyer for a living. And I think that's really useful we have all kinds of methods for mediation, but I haven't seen one for kids. So I think that to be able to transfer this practice to the kids' language and then use it to enable them to learn how we actually work in a discussion, that we have these roles that we might take and we might change them and their dynamic and stuff like that. So I want to try it.
The important thing was to keep the process right, you know what I mean? So that everyone's voices are heard, even if we don't agree, even if we don't like them. Everyone's voices are heard, and everyone has an equal opportunity to have an opinion and to voice their opinion. That's the process that is important to be established and to be right. The decisions sometimes are wrong.